goddamn cliffhangers. God, just when it was getting good. How you going? Welcome to my The Expanse Season 1 Episode 10 Leviathan Awakes review. Episode 10 begins with Nagata, Amos and Kamal scoping the scene after the CPM shootout. They get talking with Semi and they work out that there's no radiation and CPM are hiring a bunch of goons. So Nagata tells Semi that if he can guide her to the tunnels, she can help him get to the docks because that's how the OPA used to get stuff around on the different stations. And when they hear this, Kamal and Amos look very uncertain. Like, what are we getting ourselves into here? Semi says that he has a CPM override, so he can help them by unlocking the ship. So in the last episode, Miller and Holden got zapped by radiation, so they're raiding a medical cabinet to get some drugs like stimulants and painkillers and anti-nausea drugs to help them combat the effects of the radiation. So it turns out that they're just trying to buy time so they can get to help. It'll take him a couple of hours to get back to the Rocinante to get medical assistance. So Dresden's still on Eros and he's still extracting goo from Julie Mao's body. And he says this weird thing about how she was blessed like no other person, as in she was rich and could have whatever she wanted. But then he also said that she touched the unknown and the unknown touched her back. So they mustn't know what they're doing with this proto-molecule because it looks like it basically killed her. And then Dresden says something about how she's going to save us all. So I'm curious, how does this uncontrollable goo save anyone? And the effects of the radiation are causing Miller to throw up, and Holden's face is all covered in blotchy, burns. So they realize they can't get to the docks because the transit system's been shut down. They hear some heavy equipment coming down one of the tunnels, so they decide to hide inside of a pachinko parlor. And because they're racing against the clock with this radiation sickness overtaking them, they basically have to find another exit because they don't have time to wait. So Miller says that he and Semi grew up around pachinko parlors and they used to get the stuck coins out of the chutes until one day Miller's hand grew big enough that it got stuck and he got caught and got a beating. So Semi suggested that maybe they should join the police force because it's better to be a boot than a butt, because boots kick butt. So one of the CPM goons comes into the pachinko parlor to have a few free spins, and he has a bit of a win and drops some of the chips, and he bends down to pick him up and he sees Holden there. So Miller grabs him and starts choking him out. And after they've choked him out, his squad mates can be heard saying, get down to the docks. And there's a really interesting contrast between the sound of this guy being choked out and the happy joy sounds of these pachinko machines. So back on Earth, Avasarala wants to have an investigation into these fusion drives in the Bush shipyards. But Ehrenreich interrupts and says that there's already an investigation into these ships, and they found that they're being produced for private contractors and sent off to Tycho. But Avasarala couldn't find any reference to these drives in any of the systems. So who are these private contractors and what are they doing sending them off to Tycho? And then Ehrenreich introduces Jules Pierre Mao, who's Julie's father, and apparently he's part of their approved contractors. Odd. So the crew of the Rocinante is in the tunnels of Eros and Nagata's trying to find her way through the tunnels. But she's having a bit of difficulty because she can't find any of the signs that they use to help the people who build the tunnels to navigate. They put these signs up to prevent the workers getting lost in the tunnels. So then Holden notices that the CPM goons were setting up cameras and sensors inside of the tunnels of Eros. And then the transport pod station makes a noise to indicate that they're back online. And a pod pulls up and it's full of people who are infected with the proto-molecule. So Holden says that it's some sort of station-wide experiment on the people who live there. But luckily it's not airborne, so they're safe. And in the tunnels, one of the people who are following Nagata looks up into an air vent and there's a corpse in there and it opens its mouth and drips brown goo on him. So I'm like, are they infected with the proto-molecule? Not sure. And then we see that Dresden has set up a couple of lasers to point at Julie Mao's body to encourage the proto-molecule within her to expand and grow. I'm not sure what he's trying to achieve with that. Maybe it'll help infect other people. So Miller and Holden just kill 2 guys to take away their CPM armor so they can get through the docks.
Cold-blooded.
And then old mate Kenzo, the spy, catches up with Holden. He's like, hey man, you gotta take me with you. You can do whatever you want with me after we're out of here, but you gotta get me off this rock. And Holden's just like, nope. And he just empties his clip into the wall next to him, and Kenzo says, see ya, I'm out of here. So Holden's had enough of Kenzo's lies. And then Avasarala's on the roof of her house with her husband, and she says to him that he needs to get himself and their kids off Earth and onto Luna, which is the moon, because things are getting so unstable in the UN. And she knows that Frank didn't kill himself. That much is clear. She believes that because Frank knew about the stolen drives that he was offed. So Semi gets to the docks and he unlocks the Rocinante, and Nagata's like, where's that scruffy looking guy? And Semi's like, yeah, I took care of him. And she's like, what? So because he got that goo on him, Semi just shot him and killed him. And Amos is fully on board with that. So Miller and Holden get to the docks, and CPM is basically denying all their hired goons access to the ships. They're saying something about, you need to go over to this other dock. So all the CPM goons are like, no, you let us on this ship now. And they're like, you are not getting on this ship. So back on the Roci, and Semi's like, we got to take off now. And Nagata's like, no way, we gave Holden our word that we'd give him 3 hours and he's still got time. So Semi basically says, listen, CPM's going to be watching the docks for ships leaving. We either get off now or they'll come for us. And Amos is like, yep, he's correct. We need to get off this rock now. So Semi pulls a gun on Nagata and he's like, we need to go now. Amos, help me unlock this console. And Amos just casually strolls over and then shoots Semi in the back, and Nagata's covered in his blood. So Nagata's standing there like, oh my god. And I'm starting to think that she's worrying about how much of a loose cannon Amos is. So Miller starts chanting slogans and stirring up unrest at the docks with these CPM goons. And he's like, they're going to try to get away without us. They're going to leave us here to die. We need to get on their ship now. And this turns the entire docks into one massive riot. So then during the kerfuffle, Miller and Holden make a break for the elevator. And Miller holds open the door and yells out to Philat Kothari, who's the guy who attempted to murder his partner Havelock back on Sirius. So he calls over to him like, Philat, come on, let's go. And Philat comes running over and Miller just shoots him in cold blood.
Cold-blooded.
So then while they're riding the elevator, Miller gets like some drips on his face and he's like, I wonder what raindrops taste like. And Holden's like, never even thought of it. So then Miller's like, why would you even leave Earth? And Holden says that basically everything he loved was dying. So that'll be interesting to find out what's going on there. And occasionally through this episode, Miller's having these hallucinations of Julie. So I'm wondering if this is an effect of the radiation or if he's just still so hung up on her that he just can't let go. So Miller and Holden make it to the Rocinante and they're like basically out on their feet, and Burton basically picks them both up at once and carries them to their seats. And Burton's given them some treatment with like an armband thing. And he says that the machine is basically trying to go into hospice mode all the time. So instead of healing them, it's trying to just manage the pain until they die. But he overrides it and tells it, no, go back into healing them. So Kamal confides with Nagata that he thinks that they may be infected. And Nagata says, no way, Holden wouldn't do that to us. And Kamal's like, yeah, but maybe they don't know. And she's like, no way. So Holden thanks Nagata for waiting for them, and Nagata says that it sucks being in charge, so he can have that back. So I'm wondering, is this like a little bit of love in the air? I hope they play it cool. And because Semi's dead, they can't detach the ship from the docks. So Kamal tries to pull away unsuccessfully, and then he says, oh, bugger this. And he just disconnects all the gas tanks. So now it's just the Martian frigate in the nude. And they're away! So then we see Dresden monitoring Eros station, and he says something about send it all to Thoth. And I don't know what Thoth is. Is it like a ship or a planet or a moon or something, or a person. But during this period, Kamal picks up on this transmission and he detects who it's coming from, where it's going, and he says something about, like, I think we've identified who the bad guys are here. And then we have the final scene of the season, which is Kenzo wandering around a basically empty Eros, and he starts seeing these blue lights glowing, and he goes and investigates what's going on here. And then this, like, glowing dust, like, forms into a person next to him, and it's like it's harassing him. And then this arm just reaches out and, like, grabs him and pulls him into this room, and it's like he's now become part of the proto-molecule. So it looks like the proto-molecule can take on human forms or something, and it looked like it was sort of taunting him, like it had a grin on its face. Weird. So what the hell is this proto-molecule? I mean, they say it's a bioweapon, but, like, what's the plan with it? Do they have a way to combat it? Cure it? Kill it? What's the go? So I hate that this ends on a cliffhanger, but luckily I can just go on and watch season 2. But I hate it when a series ends on a cliffhanger and then doesn't get funding for the next season. So you're like, well, what happened? I'm looking at you, Deadwood. So Nagata was kind of fading into the background up until this point, so it's good to see her brought back to the foreground a bit. She was kind of lumped with Kamal for a bit and did nothing. It seems like she's becoming Holden's love interest, and if that's the case, then I hope they play it on the down low. I hope they don't use their affection for each other as a cheap way to generate drama. So I'm currently watching this concurrently with Star Trek Picard, and I have to say that The Expanse is how you really do sci-fi well. The technology is driving the story in The Expanse, whereas in Picard it's just like a background. And I have a question about Craig, who's Frank's widower? What's the terminology when it's a gay couple? I don't know. He seems to be playing along with the whole suicide angle, so I'm wondering if he's in on it, or if he's just an innocent party. Anyway, that wraps up my Season 1 review of The Expanse. So far, so good. I'm going to give this episode a 9 out of 10. I'm docking a point basically because I thought the tunnel bit was a bit boring. So next week I'll start reviewing Season 2, and I'm really looking forward to it. Hopefully it's as good as Season 1. See ya! Oh yeah, don't forget to like and comment and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.